Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'll be discussing what the British Poultry Council have been saying at the huge jobs vacancies within their industry, which has meant that although exports of their products is massively down, we're seeing our own shortages here. Not as much chicken, not enough turkeys for Christmas. The only thing coming home to roost this winter is Brexit. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So multiple chicken related bits of Brexit news. And at first sight, might appear to be a bit confusing. See, exports of poultry to the EU are down 70% in terms of value, thanks to our status as a third country and those lovely trade barriers that Boris Johnson erected. Barriers that are a little bit like Trump's wall, only Johnson actually built his. I'm coming to the recommendations from the industry for that in a bit. But first, I want to go down the natural thought process that most people would apply because it's absolutely crucial for understanding just how damaging Brexit is. See, when I talked about the prospect of problem with food supplies due to Brexit before Brexit actually happened, supporters would say things like, well, what food we don't sell to the EU, what's the problem with that? That means we get to keep it in compensation and it'll be cheaper. Bargain, absolute bargain. As if food is just food. Completely ignored our taste and that we produce quite a lot of food that isn't that popular in the UK, but it is in some European countries. But there's another element at play. The bottom line is that exports of chicken from Britain have plummeted. You might almost say they've been completely stuffed by Brexit. So why on earth are Nando's having to close restaurants and KFC having to limit their menu due to a lack of chicken? And how can we go to the supermarkets? It depends which one you go to, but there can be massive gaps in the chicken shelves. My local Morrison's, huge gaps. We're a massive producer of chicken in this country, and we can't even sell most of it abroad anymore. How the hell are we having shortages of chicken ourselves? And what's happening to the chicken that we can't sell to either the EU or us? I mean, shortages of staff are what's responsible here. Yeah, that's why we can't supply ourselves with our own food. Because that's what Brexit has done. It's not just that we struggle to buy things from other countries now. And that struggle is nowhere near as bad as it's going to be when we start applying checks. We can't even supply ourselves with the food that we produce. This is insane. This is insane. The more you think about it, the more insane Brexit is. Even the Simpsons are taking the piss out of us now, which actually, come to think of it, isn't anything new. But it's getting seriously embarrassing now. I need to say it for another time for emphasis. We cannot even supply ourselves with the food that we ourselves are producing on our own green and pleasant land. Stop supporting Brexit. You're making us look really stupid now. Even Brexit supporters must accept that, surely. It was one thing when they thought, we'll struggle to get EU food into the country. No problem. I can manage without a bit of Parma ham. I'll just eat all this excess sovereignty I've got now. We can't even eat our own pissing food now. Anyway, back to the reports. The British Poultry Council say that their industry has 16% vacancies on average. That means some places have got way more. That's 16% of jobs available going unfilled. They can't get people for them. This is a problem. And a lot of these vacancies are for essentially unskilled jobs. Even a Tory MP could do it from what I gather. So where's this queue of Brexit voters to take on these jobs that apparently foreign workers were blocking them from in order to get Nando's open again? Where are they? Where are all these people who wanted these jobs but they couldn't take it because of cheap migrant labour? Where the hell are they? Then we have shortage in the haulage industry. So it's not straightforward to even transport food to the shops when it can be produced and made available for distribution. That's another issue caused by Brexit. Though not actually Brexit, but this extreme Tory Brexit. It wasn't leaving the EU that caused these problems. We left the EU last year. It was taking leave of our censors and leaving the customs union single market, as well as our immigration policy. So we have two issues here. We can't sell as much chicken, thus shrinking our economy, and we can't provide enough for ourselves, thus increasing our reliance on imports. And that reliance on imports is worth consideration, because whenever the government release some asinine statement about what they're doing about these widespread Brexit-related job shortages, which always turns out to be nothing at all, they talk about avoiding reliance on migrant labour. We don't want to have reliance on migrant labour. Yes, avoiding reliance on imports of anything is a good move for any country, whether it be goods, people, services, whatever. We are reliant. That's the problem. We are reliant. And the problem is that this Brexit policy has made us more reliant, because if we cannot supply ourselves with food, if we are supplying ourselves with less food because we've got crops rotting in the fields, we've got shortages in the chicken industry, so we can't produce as much chicken as we used to, that makes us more reliant on foreign imports. All imports are foreign. Actually, no, they're not. Not anymore. Not after Brexit. Not all imports are foreign now, because we have imports from Northern Ireland now, different customs union. Insane. The government have no plan to avoid that reliance either. You know, we have huge numbers of jobs in poultry production not being filled. Doesn't matter what people want to say to that, they're not being filled. That means production is being scaled back. Even if we had the distribution network working at full speed, which we don't, and the situation isn't getting any better there either, if we can't produce the goods, we still have shortages on the shelves and in restaurants. And it's a bit of a blow to some. Christmas turkey production has been hit. They're suggesting that that'll have to be scaled back by 20%, according to an article in Poultry World. So that means not as much turkey will be available come Christmas. But for those thinking they'll just switch to something else, sure, okay. I've never seen the appeal in turkey, quite frankly, other than that it's a cheap way of getting a lot of meat. But if it was that good, more people would eat it throughout the year. You ever see the turkey section on the meat aisle? It's tiny. It's not actually even as big as a whole turkey. But it's not like we only have shortages in one part of the supply chain. They're evident everywhere. You know, they might be worse in some places compared to others, but they are everywhere. So if there's less of one particular food, especially fresh food like meat, which if you can't get it to where it needs to go, it just rots. It doesn't mean you can just switch to another easily, because they will also have issues supplying it and transporting it. Plus, there's now an extra pressure on that food because of shortages of others. And the answer to this particular issue is staff. Ultimately, it's staff. We don't have enough. We aren't filling those vacancies. What are the government going to do about it? If we have the people in this country to fill those vacancies, if we don't actually need migrant labour, fine. Why aren't the government doing something to link up the people with the jobs? You know, if possible. I've said that, before, that one issue with job shortages and why people can't understand is we've got unemployment and we've got jobs. What's going on? It's often that the shortages are not necessarily where you have the unemployed. You know, like in England, for example, it's quite stark. You have most of the jobs are in the south of England. So if you have suddenly industry-wide vacancies, well, a lot of those vacancies are in the south of England. Where's all the unemployment? In the north of England. You know, so if the shortages are in an affluent area with high employment, it's not good being told that there are workers 100 miles away. They can't get there. And if we don't have the workers available where they're needed in this country, guess what that means the solution is? But that's just the problem with supplying ourselves, which is the most urgent problem. But we still need to be able to sell products from Britain in order to have any sort of economy. So that means being able to sell this food to the EU as well. You know, the people who would actually like it. For this, the poultry industry has 3 suggestions for the government. Don't get your hopes up. They're not going to do anything. And they're nothing new on this channel. I've talked about them before. It's what a lot of industries want, but the government refuse. But we'll go over them anyway. Firstly, an agreement on vet checks. The EU have offered this several times and been knocked back every single time. But that is the only way to manage exports of products of this kind and get rid of like 80% of the checks. Secondly, to improve the systems we have to deal with cross-border trade. Good joke. We're actually about to make the systems worse. We're supposedly getting a new IT system coming in online next year to replace Chief, aren't we? Sounds like good news, doesn't it? Well, this Tory government have form on introducing new IT systems. Long story short, it's not good. In fact, their new IT systems have gone wrong 100% of the time. And it's not just like for a few weeks. We're talking years. Just ask the Department for Justice and the Department for Work and Pensions. This will be the next thing giving hauliers nightmares. Third, to review the requirements for inspections. What they mean by that is, can we take a light touch on inspections that must happen? Sure, but that means alignment with the EU. Something that is in our interests, but not in the government's plans. Now, here's the thing. If we assume that the leaders of the poultry industry are not as bird-brained as their products, we can assume that they have been telling the government this for a long time now. The government have repeatedly refused. Now, think about this. Why continue to make suggestions that you know the government are going to keep refusing? Logically, the only answer can be because there is no other way, or at least nobody has thought of another way, including the Brexiteers who landed us in this mess in the first place. They've got no ideas. And if nobody has any other solutions, and we won't apply the solutions that we do have available, what does that mean? It means that the problem doesn't go away. And when that problem is a huge reduction in trade, that means a smaller economy, fewer or less well-paid jobs, not enough chicken to go around. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.